Welcome to the season premiere edition of the Pub Sports Radio Ian Cameron Football Frenzy. I am excited to be here doing this show every single Thursday, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time throughout the football season, breaking down every single NFL game from now until the Super Bowl. The way this show is going to work in terms of the format is very simple. It's going to be a mostly NFL football-centric show. We're going to break down every game on the NFL card each week here on the Ian Cameron Football Frenzy. And I'll throw in a little college football as well, time permitting, at the end of the show. But for the most part, this is going to be probably a 90-10 split in favor of NFL. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Looking forward to this new show, seeing how it goes. And even though it can be difficult for me to be short, to the point, brief, you know how difficult that is for me. People that have watched me on videos and shows across multiple platforms for the last several years know that about me. Sometimes I can go on and on about one game. We're going to try to keep this compact. We're going to try to keep this rapid fire. At least I'm going to try to keep this rapid fire to the best of my ability so that we can get through every single game here on this NFL card for week one. So looking forward to it. Let's get right down to business. We've got the season opener tonight. It's the Houston Texans taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, rematch of the playoff matchup in the AFC from last year. Current line for this game has Kansas City right around a 9.5 point favorite here at Arrowhead Stadium. We've seen Houston money come in because this started out with the Texans as a double-digit dog in this game, and we've also seen some money come in on the under, down to about 53 and a half from where this total was originally. We're seeing around 53 and a half now, the consensus with this total here between the Texans and the Chiefs. There's a lot to digest here. We know the big offseason moves by the Houston Texans, courtesy of bonehead Bill O'Brien, who I have no love for whatsoever, not a whole lot of respect for as a coach, or a GM even worse, I think, than he is a coach, if as hard as that is to believe. But obviously trading away DeAndre Hopkins, getting very little for him in return. All you're talking about is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL, and all of a sudden, you've got some major problems here. Trading him away and essentially getting not a whole lot back in return. That is an issue for the Houston Texans, having to replace that production. The good news for Houston, though, is if you look at their wide receiving depth going into this season, they've got the pieces in place to maybe not completely eradicate the loss and the blow suffered by losing DeAndre Hopkins, but there's talent in this wide receiving core for the Houston Texans. Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, Brandon Cooks, although he's questionable with that quadricep injury going into the season opener here tonight. That's always a little bit of a concern. Maybe not having Cooks. So there's still some talent here. Kiki QT is a wild card. This is a guy that really stepped onto the scene about a season or two ago for the Texans and really stepped up as a receiver. And then he had some injuries. Then he didn't quite get as many reps and touches of the football and just kind of dropped off at that point. So it's interesting to see how he fares. I like Darren Fells as well, the tight end. In fact, he's a guy that could have a big game tonight. Tight ends is usually where you can make some hay against the Chiefs defense. So Darren Fells is a guy that might be able to step in there for the Houston Texans, be good at that position. And in particular, in terms of this matchup here tonight against the Kansas City Chiefs, might be able to do some damage. So if you're thinking player props, and if you follow me on Twitter at Bobano, I like posting player props when I can across multiple sports, NHL, NBA, and the same will go with the NFL. I'm definitely interested in Darren Fells from a player prop standpoint. The Houston Texans defense is still a major concern for me. The pass rush certainly going to be questionable moving into the season. The secondary was torched at times last year, torched by this very same Kansas City Chiefs offense in the playoffs. The Chiefs on offense, look, I know Damian Williams opted out of playing this season, the running back, but that's why you went out and drafted from LSU, the national champion LSU Tigers, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And you talk about a guy that can pretty much function and provide that same role at the running back spot that Damian Williams provided. That's going to be big for the Kansas City Chiefs. You could put him in this offense. He can do a lot of the same things that Damian Williams was able to do, specifically a really good pass-catching running back. We saw it at LSU in that Joe Brady offense with Joe Burrow, the quarterback, last year, how good he was catching the football out of the backfield. There's another player prop that I'm interested in this game is looking at receptions and over receiving yards for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know he's a running back. He's going to run the football a lot too, but I think his best attribute, or one of his top attributes, is filling that pass-catching role out of the backfield that the Chiefs love to have in this offense. And I think that's going to be something to look at tonight in this game, is that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be able to give them that pass-catching ability at the running back spot. This is a really, really tough game for me because it's a lot of points to be laying. The first game of the season, every team's got no preseason. Every team's got limited amount of training camp. That's a concern. And another thing that really kind of bothers me here a little bit here going into this game with the Chiefs and the Texans as well, divisional matchup is, and I'm going to mention this because there's a lot of divisional games this week in week one in the NFL. You've got a situation here where you got the divisional dog trend in week one, which is 19-5 against the spread the last several seasons. It's been an unbelievable trend. And and look, you can't blindly bet every divisional underdog here on the card in week one just because of that trend. But that trend can make you pull back on maybe some sides that you were considering for the week one card. And for me, now at less than -10, I think the value's gone from the Houston side. I don't know how Deshaun Watson, for as good as a quarterback is, how is he going to fare without Hopkins? Can he get that chemistry ramped up with the other receivers, with Stills, with Cooks if he plays, and company? Is he going to be able to do that right away here in week one? That's a question mark. And let's keep in mind that playoff game last year when Houston got off to that really fast start, Kansas City spotted them a 3-touchdown lead. Houston had some things bounce their way. I mean, they got some turnovers. They hit on a couple of big plays. But then once that Chiefs defense settled in, as the game went on, Chris Jones, remember, he missed the regular season meeting between the Texans and Chiefs when Houston beat Kansas City earlier in the regular season last year. Chris Jones is an elite pass rusher. He came back from that injury for Kansas City in the playoff game, and boy, did he make a huge impact and was such a big, big boost to that Kansas City Chiefs defense in that football game. So this is a very, very an underrated Kansas City Chiefs defense, but I think they got better as the season progressed, and I think they got a chance to maybe be pretty solid again this year, at least continue that upward trajectory. Remember, they got rid of the defensive coordinator a couple of years ago. That made a difference. So that's a Kansas City Chiefs defense to me that's moving in the right direction here. And now that the number's down 10, this is not a game I'm going to get involved in pregame. I already said that to everybody, subscribers of mine, everybody that's asked me about this game, Texans Chiefs. I'm not betting this game pregame. I'm going to look for receiving yards for Houston. I'm interested in Clyde Edwards-Helaire over receptions, over receiving yards, because I think he's going to be used very much in that same way that we saw Damian Williams used out of the running back spot for Kansas City. But I will give a lean to Kansas City here at below -10. I think now that it's slipped below double digits here in this game, I think there's enough reasoning for me to at least lean to the Chiefs. I just don't trust Houston. I mean, Houston had an opportunity last year, and I know revenge is overblown a little bit. They had that opportunity to take care of business against Kansas City, got out to that huge lead early in the game, and they just weren't able to sustain it whatsoever. So I've definitely got some concerns here with Houston in this particular matchup. As far as it's the highest total of week one, I'm kind of interested in a first half under in this. I don't feel great about it. I don't love it. And I know these are two potentially explosive offenses. We know Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, what they're capable of with all their weapons. And we know there's Houston's can be a bit suspect as well. But to me, I'm looking at this as a scenario where I think with no preseason and limited training camp, there's going to be some concerns that these are going to be able right away in the first week of the season. So I'm definitely interested in the full game under and the first half under. Full game under is about 53.5. The first half under, I got 20. It might be dipping below that number now after All right, are we back? I think we are. I think we are. There we go. Yeah, the internet. This is ridiculous, man. The internet just is going in and out, in and out. At literally like minutes, a minute before I went on the air, the internet's been. They're working outside in my area here on some kind of uh, I don't know, hydro lines or something, and unbelievable here. But we're back here. We're back. Can you believe this? Can you believe the timing of this crap? Every freaking time, like Skype, it'll always act up when I'm doing a live stream, or it'll take forever to log in, or my internet will just go haywire when I'm ready to do a big time live show or some kind of video. I'm ready to record. I'm ready to go. Got all my notes. I'm ready, and all of a sudden, bam, out goes the internet. So absolutely brutal. Anyway, I don't know what you heard. Somehow during this mess, the mic got muted. I don't know how, but we're back. It looks like I'm looking at the modem here in the background. It's looking like it's coming back to life here. I should run out there right now and tell them, shut this shit down until I get through this show. Will you please? I'm trying to get this football show on Thursday afternoons going here, and you're gonna do this to me now? Really? But here we go. We're back. Hopefully we're back for good for the rest of this show. Anyway, I don't know what you heard or didn't hear. Tell me in the chat, what was the last thing you heard me say? Because I talked Miami, New England, and I told you that if I'm betting that game, I'm laying with the Patriots. I'm passing on that game. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the quarterback there, that still bothers me a little bit on the road. I understand, though, why they're starting him. Tua's coming off a big-time injury. He hasn't had that full training camp. No preseason games either for the guy. Like, he hasn't even had a chance to test himself against a live NFL defense in game situation. So I can understand why Brian Flores is going to pull back the reins a little bit on Tua, go with Ryan Fitzpatrick here as a starting quarterback in week one. So definitely, yeah, KC Houston was the last one. The only game I got after that was Miami, New England. So I'll tell you this right now. A lot of people are negative on New England. Who the hell knows what Cam Newton's going to do here under center at the quarterback spot? His very first start here with the New England Patriots. But again, for him, no limited training camp, no exhibition games for the Patriots as well, and for Cam Newton to get used to this offense. So we'll have to wait and see. To me, I still look at this Patriots skill position group. Is N'Keal Harry going to show up this year? I don't know. I thought he was very, very underwhelming last year in his rookie season. Damiere Byrd, Jacoby Myers, like this receiving corps, nothing special. And Julian Edelman is on the injury report right now as questionable for this game on Sunday for the Patriots. So, there's definitely some concerns here. Birdie in the chat, I've got the chat open saying under in the Pats game, a lot of running in this game. I could see that. I'm New England too. Let's not forget, run heavy offense with Sonny Michel last year. They were, I think, in terms of plays per plays per game, seconds per snap. That's what I was looking to say. Seconds per snap. Not many teams snap the football slower from play to play than the New England Patriots. So that's something you want to keep in mind as well. The under does make some sense. Yeah, I mean, from a totals perspective, I would lean under, and I would lean Patriots -6.5. You're going to hear me say a lot, lean, but not a bet here in week one. And that's by design. I think it's irresponsible. I think it's borderline foolish to think you can go out there here in NFL week one, a unique season unlike any other, with no training camp or limited training camp and no preseason games for any of these teams, to think you can fire away at the board with 10 plays and 15 plays here in week one and think you're going to put yourself in a position for success. I don't think you can. You got to pick your spots. Let's see what these games are like. No fans in the stands, obviously, at many stadiums this weekend. Let's just pull back the reins a little bit, be a little bit more conservative, be a little bit more reserved with our betting action. Look, everybody's excited. It's NFL football. It's week one. It's a new season. I get it. There's that excitement factor. But the excitement factor shouldn't equate to, I got to make 20 bets today here in week one. No. Pick your spots. That's exactly what I'm doing. I have a lean to New England, but I don't feel great about it. So I'm pulling back, and I'm not getting involved. Chicago, Detroit, that's the game I was talking about after the Patriots and Dolphins. Right now we've got Detroit 3-point favorites here in this NFC North battle. This is two teams I would rather bet against right now than bet on. Like, you're not going to see me laying a field goal with the Detroit Lions, with Matt Patricia's team, a defense that's underwhelmed. This was supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach coming in here with a stupid-ass pencil and it wedged behind his ear, the hat on backwards, the whole bit. Look at how great I am. I came from the Belichick school, and I'm coming in here to throw my weight around here with Detroit. When really Matt Patricia, the only thing he's been doing is getting thrown around here with the Lions. I think he's done a terrible job. The defense has been totally disappointing for the Lions since he took over as the head coach. Of course, last year they had quarterback injury issues as well. Matt Stafford couldn't stay on the field for the Detroit Lions last year. He had all kinds of problems with him being healthy. You had to deal with, David Blau and just so many quarterbacks in there for the Detroit Lions last year. I think it's imperative for them that Kerryon Johnson has a big year running the football, stay healthy, and if he does, he showed you he's got something. The Auburn running back, who I thought came onto the scene for the Lions and showed he could be a quality running back for them. Kenny Golladay and Danny Amendola are going to be the receiver. Marvin Jones as well. These are the top three receivers. I did like what I saw, and this is a guy that I think is going to have a big year because he showed what he's capable of last year. He was a red zone target as well for the Lions. Talking about the tight end out of Iowa, TJ Hawkinson. I definitely think he's a player that the Detroit Lions certainly can use down in the red zone and has shown that ability. I think he's going to be a guy, if you bet touchdown props, touchdown scores week to week in the NFL, there's a guy that you might be able to cash a few with, TJ Hawkinson. I think he's going to end up being a big-time target, big-time weapon for Matt Stafford there in the red zone. The Bears, on the other hand, look, I'm hearing a lot of bad, concerning stories, I guess you could say, or reports about the Bears, that their offensive line looks terrible. Trubisky's not really been looking sharp and locked in and accurate with the football in these practice sessions. David Montgomery, the running back, who they were going to rely on quite a bit, he's questionable going into week one. The wide receiving core, Anthony Miller, good. Allen Robinson, I like him. But there's a drop-off there. Ted Ginn, he could have one great game. He's capable of it. And then there's that next game where he drops 6 passes and drops a touchdown. That's Ted Ginn. That's been his career, essentially, over the last several years. Tight end, Jimmy Graham, I don't think there's much left in the tank. That's why they drafted Cole Kmet out of Notre Dame. I think that was really, really smart by Ryan Pace, the GM of this Bears team. You had to address that. Jimmy Graham doesn't look like he's got a whole lot left in his tank at this stage of his career. So that makes some sense. Now the question is, are you going to be able, is Mitchell Trubisky going to be able to use these targets effectively, be accurate? We know he's got great athleticism. His ability to run for a big guy, pretty impressive. But again, he's got to get more accurate with the football. There's a lot to like with the Bears on defense. Their defense kind of sucked last year and disappointed and underwhelmed when you think of all the great players they have on that side of the football, led, of course, by Khalil Mack. I mean, I thought they were disappointing a little bit on the defensive side of the football. I think they get back to that here in this game. Look, this is going to be another game. I probably lean a little bit to the under. I think if this line creeps up even more, I'll get some interest in Chicago, just because I don't know if the Lions should be laying more than a field goal than they are right now. But as of right now, it's a game I'm probably going to be staying away from, just simply because when I come into this season, I had Detroit circled as a bet against. I'd rather do that with them. And I'm not sold yet on the Bears either. Bet against for me with them as well. And when I get two bet against teams, especially in week one, matching up like this, I'm not going to get involved from a side perspective. Mark, welcome into the chat. Mark is always very complimentary of my work. I appreciate that. How bad did Foles have to look to lose that Bears starting job? Well, you know what? It's not just that maybe he didn't look good, and he's coming off an injury too. And even with Jacksonville and the limited action he had last year, Nick Foles might just be a one-hit wonder at this point. He was in the right system with Doug Peterson, with John DeFilippo and that RPO, run RPO type offense that the Eagles specifically designed for him in the playoffs when they won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, and he took over for an injured Carson Wentz. It was just set up perfectly for him in that type of offense. And he's going to have to show he can do it outside of that and stay healthy, which is another problem he's had. So going to be interesting to see how that goes. We're going to have to pick up the pace here. Of course, the internet issues sort of slowed us down, but we're going to pick up the pace. Let's go to Baltimore, Cleveland. We've got Baltimore about a 7.5, 8-point favorite here in this game. Another divisional matchup. And this is a game where I can firmly tell you, for the first game of this entire Week 1 card that I broke down so far here on the premiere edition of the Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy, I'm on Cleveland here, plus the points. And this usually goes against my thought process of, okay, new coach. This is not, Week 1's not necessarily the time you want to be betting on a team with a new coach, maybe some changes in schemes, changes in systems. But when I look at this from a Cleveland Browns perspective, they were so badly coached, like embarrassingly coached last year by Freddie Kitchens. Like it was an absolute shit show. It was embarrassing to think of that guy being an NFL head coach every week for the Cleveland Browns. Draw plays on 4th and 7 from the 40-yard line, running the football right down the middle of the gut of the defense 3 or 4 times in a row from the 2-yard line and getting stuffed each time. That's the kind of brain-dead, ridiculous coaching and offensive play calling you got from the Cleveland Browns last year. They are going to be, I guarantee you this, they are going to be 100 times better prepared, 100 times, their game plan is going to be much better than it was last year because I think Stefanski's a guy that's has got that young, creative mindset to him, be able to have his team ready to go. And I do like some of this Cleveland Browns skill position group. I mean, Odell Beckham can be an enigma, but I like that he's kept his mouth shut. He's talking about, I'm focused. I want to help this team. He's at least he's come across publicly in the media, over the summer, like a teammate that cares about winning and wants to help and doesn't want to be that negative influence that sometimes he can be. Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins. You got the dual running backs with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. You've got Austin Hooper at the tight end spot. There's talent to work with here for Cleveland. And I really like this pass rush. And when you're going up against Baltimore and Lamar Jackson, you're not going to shut him down completely. But what you are going to do is you're going to probably be able to contain him a little bit with that pass rush that they've got with Myles Garrett, Sheldon Richardson, and Olivier Vernon, who hopefully can stay. Olivier Vernon has just had a brutal time trying to stay on the football field. But if he can, that's going to make Cleveland's defense even better. Let's not forget Baltimore's offensive line. You may gawk at this a little bit because he was at the tail end of his career, but don't underestimate the retirement loss of Marshall Yanda. That guy had been a mainstay in the Ravens' offensive line, was always a key catalyst in that offensive line being as good as it was, and it's definitely a loss for them. And they're facing a Cleveland front seven I think is going to be able to wreak havoc in the backfield this year, get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. And that's the key against a guy like Lamar Jackson that's got that incredible dual threat ability. And let's not forget, Baltimore did play well down the stretch. Cleveland was just awful down the stretch, but they sort of tapped out. You could tell they had basically quit on the season, quit on Kitchens down the stretch with the way they played. I think there's renewed optimism. And let's not forget, Cleveland last year in Baltimore, and I was on Cleveland in this spot as well. Last year, they were getting more than a touchdown in Baltimore. It was a September game last year, and the Browns went into Baltimore and kicked the snot out of the Ravens. I'm not saying they do that again this year, but you're going to give me more than a touchdown. Again, the division dog trend is in play here. 19-5 ATS the last several seasons. Very, very strong. I do like Cleveland here, plus the points against Baltimore. Let's move on. Colts and Jaguars, AFC South, another divisional battle here. Colts here, about 8.5, 9-point favorites, depending on where you shop here on the road. Total around 44.5. 45 in this game. It's actually come down just a little bit, the total with the Colts and the Jaguars. Phillip Rivers, second life. Obviously it didn't go well. It didn't end well with the Chargers. How much does he have left? And how much is he better an upgrade from Jacoby Brissett? He's got to be some kind of upgrade because Brissett was disappointing last year. I thought with a really, really good, like sometimes a quarterback can overcome play calling and scheming and offensive coaching. When you got a guy like Frank Reich, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, That's usually a guy I trust to put his quarterbacks in the best position to succeed, because I think a lot of him is a play caller. I think a lot of him is an offensive game planner. And the fact that Jacoby Brissett, even with the intuity and the offensive mind of Frank Reich, that he struggled so much last year as the quarterback of the Colts, it made me think, you know what? Colts probably made the right move, taking a chance on Phillip Rivers, or at least looking elsewhere at the quarterback position other than roll with Brissett for a second straight season. Not saying that Rivers is going to be the solution here, because let's be honest, Rivers looked like an old man at times last year. Let's call it for what we see it. Lame duck throws, inaccurate at times, just under. How about the underthrows last year, or just short arming some stuff, and just completely underthrowing his receivers by a good 5-10 yards at times. That's what we kind of saw from Phillip Rivers last year with this with the LA Chargers. Can he turn that around here? He's got weapons. He's got T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, Zach Pascal. I love that receiving trio for the Colts. Jack Doyle has established himself as a really sturdy tight end in this league. You got Marlon Mack to rely on at the running back spot. You drafted Jonathan Taylor as well out of Wisconsin. I don't know how big of an impact he's going to make here moving forward, but it's a situation for me where there's weapons for Rivers, and he's got a great offensive line. He really does. The offensive line's very strong potentially for the Colts once again this year. He should get the protection that clearly at this stage of his career, protection that he needs to be able to throw the football. He's got an excellent offensive line. So there are pieces in place. Phillip Rivers has the table set, basically. The fork is there, the plate is there, the knife is there, the butter knife, all the wine glass, the beer mug, whatever the case may be, all the little utensils, he's got them. He's got the receivers. He's got the tight end. He's got the running back. He's got a great offensive line. He's got the table set for him. He's got a good offensive mind, and Frank Reich is his head coach. He's got all of this working for him. But now, Phillip Rivers, you've got to go out there and make the plays and make the throws. You can't be doing what you did last year. Interceptions, underthrowing your receivers by 10 yards on the deep ball. That happened so much for Rivers last year. Let's see. He's got the pieces to succeed. But if this is the Rivers that proves once again, just like last year, that, hey, I'm just a washed-up quarterback at this stage, and even the great weapons around me and the great situation around me, maybe it's not enough, to pull one more great season out of Phillip Rivers. That remains to be seen. So it's going to be a fascinating dynamic to watch. Jacksonville looks like they're a mess right now. We know, of course, Jalen Ramsey's now in LA with the Rams. Gardner Minshew's a competitor. I'll give him that. And he played well at times last year, but he also petered out down the stretch. I don't love the receiving core. DJ Chark's capable, but Chris Conley, Laviska Shenault out of Colorado, Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook. We'll have to see how they go. They bring in Tyler Eifert as a tight end to complement James O'Shaughnessy. Tyler Eifert's a guy that hasn't been able to stay healthy for most of his NFL career. So there's definitely concerns here with Jacksonville being able to move the ball. Their defense just completely fell apart last year. It's a little bit of a rebuild on that side of the ball. To me, there's cases to be made to want to lay it with Indy, and I considered it. It's my lean here. But again, we've got the divisional dog trend in play, and with no preseason and limited training camp for Rivers with a new team and new offense, I'm not in a rush to lay this kind of number, this kind of wood with the Indianapolis Colts in week one. I'm just not. You might have the right side. For those of you wanting to lay the points with the Colts, I could see it. I don't want Jacksonville. I would lean to Indy, but I'm not going to pull the trigger. It's just too steep of a price for me in week one. Let's see. I saw someone ask me a question here. Birdie, why do people keep saying Brissett was a disappointment? Vinatieri missed 3 game-winning field goals. They are 10-6. That's true. But the Colts defense, Birdie, was a big part of that. I thought the Colts defense dug in most of the season, tried to keep them in games. But I thought when there were opportunities in those close games to drive a team down the field, try to win the game. Now, missed field goals was part of the story, but there were also games where Brissett had that opportunity to drive the team down the field, win the game, and he didn't. He came up short. So I think you had to try to look in another direction. Look, it's a roll of the dice for the Colts. If anybody can say with a straight face they know what Phillip Rivers is going to be like this season and how he's going to play, I think they're straight up liars. I don't think anybody has a really strong feel how this is going to work out for Phillip Rivers, but remains to be seen. But that's a interesting game coming up between the Colts and the Jaguars, and let's see how he fares. Jets and Bills now. Let's go to the AFC East here. Bills minus 6.5 in this game. Total 39.5. Very low total here in this one. The Buffalo Bills now, target on their back. People aren't necessarily going to be sleeping on this team and their potential moving forward. Josh Allen, I thought he got better as the season went on. He's got to work on his deep ball accuracy, but he's still very good at the short to intermediate throws. We know he's an electrifying dual threat quarterback. His ability to run is outstanding. He's going to have to rely on that. They say he's working on his deep ball accuracy, and they say it's looking as good as it ever has in the practice sessions. Again, can he translate that now to live game action against a live defense? That remains to be seen. Devin Singletary, I love the Zach Moss draft pick out of Utah. Really give them a good 1-2 punch with the running back spot. Stephon Diggs, of course, was the huge slam dunk wide receiver acquisition in the offseason. They needed a number one. No disrespect to John Brown and Cole Beasley. They're not number one receivers. They're not. You needed that prime target in the wide receiving core for the Buffalo Bills, and they look like they finally might have addressed that with Stephon Diggs. Dawson Knox, solid tight end as well for this team. Kicking game, though, could be a question mark. They're going with Tyler Bass. They've had Stephen Hauschka the last couple years, and he really had a tough year. I think it was time to part ways with Stephen Hauschka. He just wasn't as reliable last season for the Bills in the kicking game as he had been before. So that's the right move there. This is another one where, to me, the Jets have a lot of question marks coming into this season. Defensively, in particular, I think that defense is going to struggle. Offensively, Sam Darnold, can he be more consistent? Can Le'Veon Bell get going? Le'Veon Bell, I mean, this guy was an elite running back a couple years ago in Pittsburgh, and last year, he never got on track with the Jets. They need a whole lot more out of him. Brashad Perriman, Jamison Crowder, Chris Hogan, they bring him in as well, who's been with the Patriots in the past, and the Panthers most recently. We'll see how he fares as well. Chris Herndon, Ryan Griffin at the tight end spot. There's some pieces offensively, but I think the defense is a concern for me with the Jets. I would lean Buffalo, but no way am I going to lay 6.5 here. Week one with a team now feeling some pressure, feeling some expectations. All they've heard all summer is, hey, division is yours. The AFC East is yours. You're on the rise. New England's on the decline. The Jets are still in a rebuilding phase. They're still, a little bit away from truly competing in my mind. And we know the Miami Dolphins are in that same boat. Bills are hearing all of this noise that, hey, the division's yours. Sometimes this is pressure and expectations for a franchise that isn't used to this pressure and these expectations right away in week one of a new season. So that's the tricky part. And again, divisional dog. I've said it many times. You know the trend. You know how strong that's been in week one. So I'm not in a rush to lay points in these divisional games. So just like the Colts game, I lean Colts. I lean favorite in that game. I lean to the Bills here in this game, but probably not a game I'm getting involved with. Green Bay, Minnesota. All the money rushing in on Green Bay. They opened up about 3.5, 4 in this game, or Minnesota did as a favorite. They're now down below a field goal in this game. Minus 2.5 across the board on the Minnesota Vikings in this game. I'm fading this move, flat out. I am completely going against this move. I know there's people that say, oh, it's Aaron Rodgers getting points. How can I pass that up? How can I go against that kind of opportunity to take points with Aaron Rodgers as an underdog? Well, here's why. Was anybody truly impressed by Green Bay last year? I know 13-3 last season for the Green Bay Packers, but that had to have been one of the softest, weakest, most, I don't want to say fraudulent, but kind of fraudulent, the 13-3 season that Green Bay had. They had a weak schedule. They had a very, very easy schedule. Their defense was a little bit overrated in my mind. And when I look at this Green Bay team offensively, yes, Aaron Rodgers is there. Yes, Devontae Adams is a phenomenal wide receiver. Aaron Jones, good running back, really good running back. I mean, you got a nice little trio there. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, Rodgers, Jones, and Davante Adams. But look at the rest of this receiving core. They didn't do anything to give Aaron Rodgers more weapons. They didn't. You're still running out there. Your 2, 3, 4 options at the wide receiving spot are Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Equanimous St. Brown. I mean, really, the Packers have consistently failed to give Aaron Rodgers some really, really elite level skill position talent. And to me, Davante Adams is going to be obviously targeted a ton. He is a great receiver, but he's not going to have, I think, consistent help around him. That's always going to be the issue here for Green Bay moving forward. The defense is still always an issue for me with the Packers. They can't match Minnesota on that side of the ball. Now, Minnesota did suffer a big blow injury-wise this week with the loss of Danielle Hunter. Premier pass rusher on this team, one of the NFL leaders in sacks. I get it. That's a huge blow to the Minnesota Vikings defense, which is still, I think, better than Green Bay's in my opinion. You look at Kirk Cousins. Yes, he can frustrate you. I get that 100%. But this is a guy that should be coming into this season with a confidence building, a little bit of building some confidence here. You got a Minnesota team that finally won a playoff game last year in the Superdome against the New Orleans Saints. That has to go a long way to getting his confidence level ramped up, to getting him looking to play better here this season from start to finish. And the Vikings, certainly they part ways with Stephon Diggs. They trade him to the Bills. That's certainly going to be something you keep in mind. But, Dalvin Cook being healthy is a plus. That offense is just different. That offense is just better, Minnesota. When Dalvin Cook is healthy and ready, he is this season. You've still got Adam Thielen leading the receiving corps. You've still got a phenomenal tight end in Kyle Rudolph here for this Minnesota Vikings team. There's a lot to like here. In my opinion, now that I'm getting below a field goal, maybe I'm off this game at the opener. Now that it's Minnesota minus 2.5, and actually I'll probably just do Minnesota money line here, which you can get minus 140 to minus 145 in most books right now. Mike Zimmer in division games has been phenomenal, and I know this isn't the same U.S. Bank Stadium in Minnesota with one of the loudest, strongest home field advantages in the NFL. You're not going to have that here with no fans. I get that. That's a loss in terms of the home field advantage that Minnesota normally has, but to me, I said I was fading Green Bay at least in week 1 until they show me last year was not the fluke 13-3 that I think it was. A fluke. I'm telling you, a fluke. 13-3 with a cupcake schedule. They won so many close games. They could have easily – you see the number of close games they won Green Bay last year, barely squeaking by, and they didn't face – and now their schedule gets a whole lot tougher, starting with a divisional team on the road here in week 1. They're going to have to show me last year that the Green Bay Packers can live up again to that 13-3 record. I like Minnesota here in this one now that it's below a field goal, but I'll probably just go with the money line instead on the Vikings here. Let's move on. Next game, Raiders and Panthers. Las Vegas minus 3, road chalk in this game, total around 47.5. I don't know if there's a team facing a much tougher transition to week 1 of this new season than Carolina. Think about the situation. New head coach in Matt Rule. Never been an NFL head coach. He's been a good college head coach, never an NFL pro level head coach. New coordinators, both sides of the ball. New systems, new schemes, both sides of the ball. New quarterback, although I like their new quarterback quite a bit. How can you not? Teddy Bridgewater stepped in there, was phenomenal last year, taking over for an injured Drew Brees. We know what he did with the Saints, kept their season afloat when Brees was injured. But this is a totally different kettle of fish here for this with this Carolina team, with new coach, new coordinators, new systems on both sides of the ball. This is not a Carolina team primed to play their best football in week 1. Hell, maybe even the whole first month of the season. To me, it's unreasonable to expect Carolina to be flying on all cylinders with all the transition, all the coaching changes, the new coordinators, new schemes, new quarterback, offensive line rebuilt, defense completely gutted from last year. We know Luke Kuechly moved on, James Bradbury Arguably, their top cornerback is gone. A huge personnel turnover on the defensive side of the football. They do still have the magical, explosive Christian McCaffrey, who was just incredible last year and is probably going to be great again this year. But yeah, this is a bet against team for me, flat out here in the first month of the season, especially in week 1. And I know there's concerns with Las Vegas. This is the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a team that was extremely disappointing, borderline terrible last year. But just strictly from a continuity perspective from last season to this year, in the most unique of NFL seasons where there's no exhibition games, a limited amount of training camp, limited amount of practices. Think about how Carolina's got to somehow get all these players to gel together. Not as many practice sessions. You got to do all these Zoom conferences and all this nonsense virtually, trying to get everybody on the same page, get them to learn the playbook, new coach, new coordinators. That's not easy. That's not easy in a normal season when you've got a full training camp and you have 4 preseason games at your disposal. That's even tougher in this COVID-19 scenario that we're dealing with here entering week 1 of this NFL season. I can't think Carolina's going to come out there and just be great right away. Las Vegas is a dubious proposition laying points. And I know there's some people that are concerned. It's an early start game on the road in Carolina for the West team traveling east. That stuff doesn't matter to me in week 1. I mean, you didn't play the week before. You should be able to acclimate yourself a little bit better in this spot. And for the Las Vegas Raiders, you've still got Josh Jacobs, the running back, Derek Carr. You've got an offense that I think could take advantage of a really, really susceptible Carolina defense, especially early in the season. All I'm asking for, can the Las Vegas Raiders, for all their flaws, at least they've got John Gruden, same head coach, same coordinators. The difference in the continuity and cohesion between Las Vegas going into this game and Carolina is night and day. Am I asking too much for this Las Vegas team to just go out there and win a football game against a team that's starting from ground zero, starting from scratch, starting over? Is that asking too much? Just go out there and win the football game. You've got more cohesiveness. You're better in a better situation, to play a good game than Carolina here in week 1. So I'm on the Las Vegas Raiders here, -3. They don't win this football game. I don't know where they go from here, to be honest with you, because this couldn't be set up. This is set up on a silver platter for the Las Vegas Raiders, with Carolina bringing in new personnel everywhere, new coach, new coordinators, new systems. This is set up for the Las Vegas Raiders to do well. In this game. It's time for them to go out and win this football game. Las Vegas, to me, is the side for me in this one. I think Carolina is going to be a good ATS team the second half of the season. I just don't think it's going to happen immediately for this group. It's just going to take them some time. You just cannot expect all of this, the change that we've seen with Carolina, to just gel all of a sudden here in week 1. So I'm definitely looking at Las Vegas here, laying the field goal, laying the -3. I think Carolina could be a good ATS team second half of the season. When a month or 2 of the season has already gone by, you'll start to get that cohesion, and everybody will start to settle into these new systems, the coaching staff, the coordinators, everything. But it's going to take time, I think, for Carolina. And let's not forget Matt Rule in his first seasons at Temple and Baylor in college. They were brutal. What Temple was 2 wins in Matt Rule's first season. Baylor had 1 win. 1 win in Matt Rule's first seasons there. So even in the college level, it took Matt Rule at least a full year to get things turned around. It didn't happen right away. It was still a disastrous first season for him at Temple and for him at Baylor when he coached those 2 programs. I don't think the fix is going to come quickly here for him in the NFL with Carolina either. 1 o'clock games, we've got a couple left. Let's do the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington football team. Not the Washington, the Washington football team now, as they call it. I love saying that, the Washington football team. It just sounds funny. Philadelphia -6 here, favorites, 42.5 the total in this one. Pick your poison. I can't lay 6 with Philly. Washington's got their issues. We know that. It's a circus off the field. The name change, Daniel Snyder's antics. But Philadelphia, look, they've already got a banged-up offensive line coming into this game and into this season. Lane Johnson, what else is new? Can't stay healthy. His status is in doubt for week 1. Brandon Brooks as well. Um, Carson Wentz, how's he going to fare? It's not like he's played a lot of football the last year and a bit. There's a lot of red flags here for me with the Eagles. To me, this is a rock and a hard place game. I can't back Washington either. I think they made a good hire in Ron Rivera. I think in time it's going to work well for him in Washington. Look, and for me, it's going to be what this game and essentially this season is going to come down to for the Washington football team is Dwayne Haskins ready to progress in this offense? Because to me last year, that didn't look like a first-round pick to me. Not at all. I mean, happy feet in the pocket, took too many sacks, missed some wide open throws. It was the whole gamut for Dwayne Haskins. He's got a show now. Next in this season, he's ready to take a step forward. He does have a good receiver here in Terry McLaurin to work with. I thought he was very, very solid. And of course, they have some rapport going back to college as well. Let's not forget that. Logan Thomas couldn't play quarterback, but he showed signs of being a pretty effective tight end last year for Washington. He's got the capability as well to make some plays down the field for this Washington team or in the tight end passing game. The question for me is this Washington defense was horrible last year. I'm not sure how progressive they're going to be. We know Ron Rivera is a defensive guy. He's a defensive background. He was a defensive coordinator in the NFL before he got the first head coaching job in Carolina and now here in Washington. We'll have to wait and see how this goes. It's going to be fascinating. Philadelphia loses Malcolm Jenkins, obviously, from the secondary, but they fill that void, or at least attempt to, trying to bring in Darius Slay. I thought that was very, very good for the Eagles. They need some defensive reinforcements, and Darius Slay should help them in that secondary without a doubt coming into this season. It's a really, really tough game here. It's that perfect number. I can't lay this many with Philadelphia on the road, but am I ready to jump at Washington? Again, we've got the divisional dog trend, so if you like Washington plus the points because of that, I think it's a situation where Washington might be able to hang around here, and they sometimes have given the Eagles some fits, so it's going to be interesting here. Birdie in the chat saying the front seven, actually, the whole front seven with Washington's the strength. I think the secondary is where they're susceptible. That's always an issue. And, of course, the Eagles, let's not forget, ravaged by injuries at wide receiver last year. They're really going to have a lot of their key pieces back now in the receiving game. Deshaun Jackson is going to be back. Alshon Jeffrey may not play. He's questionable. We'll have to wait and see on his status. But if they have Jeffrey and Jackson back, remember, they were playing with Greg Ward and Arcega-Whiteside for extended time last year as their top receivers. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind here. We'll have to wait and see who's healthy for the Eagles in terms of receiver. But tough game here, not one I'm going to get involved with. All right, we're going to speed it up because we're running short on time. Last 1 o'clock game is Seattle-Atlanta. Seattle 2-point favorites, 49 the total in this game. Look, I'm not bullish on a lot of overs this week, this first week of the season. I'm worried that the offenses are a step behind without any preseason games entering this season. That does concern me. But this one's got, I think, some points scored written on it. You've got, obviously, weather's not going to be a factor inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. You've got Russell Wilson and a Seattle offense that, look, as long as Russell Wilson's there, this team's more than capable of moving the football and putting up points. Lockett and Metcalf back as your receivers. Greg Olsen, can he show you, he's still got a little something as a tight end in this league? I think he still does. I think he can still be a very good tight end, Greg Olsen, as long as he stays healthy. Chris Carson, very good running the football last year. Seattle's got weapons. Atlanta's defense did get better down the stretch last season, but to me, Seattle's offense and Wilson's just so good. Even if they get the pressure on Wilson, we see this time and time again with Russ. He's just able to avoid the pocket, avoid the rush, and be able to make plays throwing the football. So to me, they should still be able to score points. And I think Atlanta could really pick on Seattle's defense. We've always thought in the Pete Carroll era that Seattle's defense is one of the, usually been a top 5 or top 10 defense. I don't see it with this year's Seahawks defense. I think they've got some concerns on that side of the football at all 3 levels, D-line, linebacking core, and especially in the secondary. That could be trouble when you got to deal with. And Matt Ryan, I know, inconsistent at times last year, but I think there's still quality play left in Matt Ryan, especially when you look at the weapons. You look at Hayden Hurst, tight end. You look at Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, a great wide receiving tandem to start the season. They look like they're going to be healthy and ready to go. Todd Gurley's definitely a potential game breaker for the Atlanta offense. If he can somehow look like the Todd Gurley of his early days with the Rams, catch the football out of the backfield, make people miss in the open field, instead of the guy that is consistently injured, just lacking that burst, lacking that quick first step running the football. That was Todd Gurley's season last year. What are you going to get out of him for Atlanta? If you can get something out of him, this all of a sudden is a very, very potentially explosive offense. And once again, Atlanta could get that explosion back in their offense, especially if Todd Gurley can give them anything. So this total has climbed up a bit. I agree with it. I did place a bet over the total in this game. From a side perspective, I like Seattle as a dog. I don't love them laying points on the road. They've also not been good in week one. If you look back recent seasons, guys, the Seattle Seahawks have struggled straight up in ATS in week one, especially on the road in recent seasons. So, from a side perspective, it would be Atlanta here. I would prefer +3, a full field goal with the Falcons before I consider pulling the trigger and betting it myself. But if you do lean to that Atlanta side, I see a couple people are in the chat. I can understand that. I wouldn't talk you out of taking Atlanta, but I prefer the over in this game because I don't think Atlanta is shutting down Seattle's offense completely here with Russ Wilson and company. So the over the total of 49, current number right now. That's the way I'm going with this one. All right, we're down to the 4 o'clock games, the Sunday night game, and the 2 Monday night games. We'll go a little past 1 hour. We'll try to keep these shows, though, tightly compact within an hour, but we'll go a little bit extra time today for this first show, considering we had the technical glitches and the internet connectivity issues earlier in the show. They seem to have fixed and ironed out themselves, so that's good news. Chargers and Bengals. Chargers, 3-point favorites, 42 the total. The lean here is definitely to the LA Chargers. I mean, I respect Joe Burrow a lot. He's a competitor. He's a gamer. He cares. He's passionate about football, passionate about winning. He was amazing last year, leading LSU to the national championship. But are we going to all of a sudden just see Joe Burrow light it up in week one? I'm not so sure here coming into this new season. First time ever start. We know rookie NFL quarterback and his first ever start in a unique off season, unlike any other, with no training camp or limited training camp, no preseason games, and you're facing a damn good LA Chargers defense, a defense that's got the potential to be extremely good this year. That's not an easy assignment for Joe Burrow and this Bengals offense here in week one. And I know the Chargers don't have Derwin James, and what an absolute shame. I mean, this is a guy that has the potential to be an elite safety in the NFL, has already shown it in glimpses that he's really got what it takes here to be a tremendous safety in the NFL. But all of a sudden injured again. Just an unfortunate circumstance for him and for the Chargers. And, of course, now you move on, life without Phillip Rivers. You got Tyrod Taylor, who has been a starting quarterback for multiple seasons, Buffalo Bills, briefly with the Cleveland Browns as well, before Baker Mayfield took over the job from him there. Can you get something out of him? We know he's capable, but consistency is an issue. Sometimes, ball floats on him, and his accuracy gets away. He's got Mike Williams, though. He's got Keenan Allen, an awesome receiver. Austin Eckler, a really, really good running back. I don't mind that they got rid of Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon was just totally a disappointment in my mind. Fumbleitis, treated the football like a hand grenade, never could hang on to it. I think good riddance if I'm the Chargers to Melvin Gordon. I'm fully comfortable, fully confident coming into this season with Austin Eckler as my running back. Hunter Henry, keep that guy healthy. He is a top 10 tight end at least. You could even say borderline top 5 if he stays healthy for a full season, because he can give you that kind of production for the Chargers as well. I just think for the Bengals, I know second year now with that young coach, that Zach Smith, that didn't really impress me last year. overall. But to me, the Bengals are gonna take time. Burrow's got weapons. Burrow's going to be probably very good. I don't think the Bengals are going to swing and miss on him. I think he's going to be an effective NFL quarterback for sure. Just a question of how good. Is he going to be elite? Is he going to be just good? We'll have to wait and see on that for sure. Joe Mixon, though, at running back, I like him. A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, John Ross, T. Higgins out of Clemson. There's weapons here for Joe Burrow with this Bengals offense, no doubt. But is everything just going to be great and fly off and just be rolling for him in week one? I'm not so sure. I lean to the Chargers here, -3. I haven't bet it yet. I doubt I will because it looks like it's going to go to 3.5, and then I'll definitely won't be considering it, but definitely would lean a little bit here to the LA Chargers. You got a really good defense. Joe Burrow, for as talented as he was and as he is, and as good as he was in college last year, it's still his first ever NFL start. I'm going to have to need to see him do it first. Arizona, San Francisco. We've got San Francisco 7-point favorites, 48 the total. I bet Arizona actually about a month or two ago at +8.5, and I hadn't even gotten the best number at the time. And now it's down to 7. I still lean Arizona. I think they're still worth a bet here. This is I'm as high on Arizona as any team coming into this season. Kyler Murray and the Cardinals in the first year with Cliff Kingsbury, who hadn't coached in the NFL before last year, to see them play as competitively, as tough. Like, they were in so many games last year, Arizona. They rarely got blown out. Kyler Murray got better as the season progressed, and the offense completely changed for Arizona in a positive with Kenyon Drake showing up on the scene as the starting running back. Kenyon Drake was just absolutely outstanding for the Arizona Cardinals. Hard to believe because, it was a really up and down, inconsistent for him previously. And now, of course, you got the huge trade with the Texans to land DeAndre Hopkins, who's a top 2 receiver. Him and Michael Thomas in my mind. And you still got to put Julio up there as well for the Falcons, but that's what you're looking at in terms of receivers. DeAndre Hopkins is right up there as arguably one of, if not the best receiver in the NFL. You add him to go along with Christian Kirk, who really showed capability at the wide receiver spot last year. Larry Fitzgerald still got a little gas in the engine, I think, based on what I saw last year. He can still play. Andy Isabella, the UMass receiver, ended up getting better and a bigger part, more integral part of the offense as the season went along as well. There's a lot to like with this offense. There's a lot to like. And this defense, which struggled, that was their Achilles heel last year for sure, Arizona. They brought in pieces. They've really bolstered it on that side of the football here. And San Francisco, it's the dreaded Super Bowl loser in week 1 the next season. Long term, that's not been a good bet. And the 49ers, look, they're still going to be a very, very good football team with Jimmy G, with their running back trio of McKinnon, Coleman, and Mostert. The receiving core capable enough. Bourne, Taylor, Deebo Samuel really got good late in the season, although he's questionable, and that would be a big loss. Jimmy Garoppolo really zoned in on Deebo Samuel, especially in the playoffs last year. We'll have to see if he's able to play. He's questionable right now. Obviously, they gave the huge big money contract to George Kittle, and now he's been paid. Let's see what George Kittle can do now. George Kittle playing for that contract money last season, he was a terror at tight end. He was bowling guys over. He's one of these huge-ass tight ends that it's difficult, hard as hell to bring the guy down and tackle him in the open field. Let's see now what he's able to do now that he's been paid the big bucks to perform at the tight end spot. They're still going to be really good, but Arizona's given San Francisco fits in recent seasons, including last year. They played San Francisco tough. I was on Arizona, actually, at one, if not both of the divisional meetings last year between the two teams, and I'm on them again here. Again, I got 8.5. I still recommend it at +7. As long as it doesn't fall below 7. If it ever got to 6.5, that's where I'd say, you know what, get off the Arizona side, because I'd still want the full touchdown here on Arizona. And Jansen in the chat, how are you, my man? Good to see you. Full game over 48. Yes, I agree. I definitely have the over as well in this game. 47.5 I got. I like it at 48 as well. It still could take time for Arizona defensively. I like the additions on that side of the football, but I do think it's going to take maybe a game or two for them to get it going on that side of the ball. So That's why I do think they'll put up points. They won't completely shut down San Francisco's offense either. So I do like this game to go over the total. Again, I'm trying to scale back on the number of games I like over. There's really only 3 overs I like this week. Seattle, Atlanta, Arizona, San Fran. There's one more game I like the over in. That's about it. It's not the next game, but it is obviously one of the marquee games this Sunday. Everybody's looking forward to it. It's the new look Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brady, Gronk, and company, and the new era begins Sunday in the Superdome against the New Orleans Saints. Huge NFC South battle. These could be the teams that are first place comes down to these two teams when it's all said and done. 3.5-point favorite, New Orleans, 47.5 the total. A lot of people buying the Tampa Bay Kool-Aid, drinking it, buying into the hype. I'm not doing that yet. All right, I'm not. I know this is big time stuff that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pulled off in the offseason. Tom Brady should be an upgrade over Jameis Winston, just for the simple fact he's going to throw the football to teams, to players in the same color jersey and the same logo on the front, as opposed to the players on the team with the other logo. Just based on that, Tom Brady's going to help the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for sure. As well, a tremendous receiving core and weapons for him to work with. Mike Evans, although he's questionable, keep an eye on that. There's a legitimate chance Mike Evans may not play here on Sunday, which would be a big loss. But you got Chris Godwin, a pretty solid receiving core there. Ronald Jones, LaShawn McCoy in the backfield. They're going to have to get something out of the run game this year, Tampa Bay. Let's not forget that. The run game was kind of average last year. They also bring in, of course, Leonard Fournette. We'll see what they get out of him. Leonard Fournette is a guy that had a disappointing season last year. He was on a bad team. I get that. Maybe a change of scenery is going to help him for sure here with his new team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good offensive mind as well, and Bruce Arians is going to help. Here's the issue with Tampa Bay. Not only the no preseason for Tom Brady with this new offense and new offensive line, new players all around him, other than Gronk. He's the only guy he's played with. Here's the issue. In New England last season, what was the offense? Run the football quite a bit, run the football heavily, and ask Tom Brady to make the throws when necessary. That was the New England offensive philosophy last year with Tom Brady under center. That's not the Tampa Bay offensive scheme, or at least it's not if Bruce Arians has his way. For years, and this goes back to when Bruce was in Arizona, when he had Carson Palmer. This goes to with him here so far with Tampa Bay. He likes to throw the football more than run it. The percentage of pass plays to run plays with a Bruce Arians coach team in Arizona and here in Tampa Bay, it's been significant. He's thrown the ball way more than he's run the football. And Tom Brady's going to have to show he can execute that kind of offense. It's different from New England, and he's going to have to do it now. And people had question marks about Brady that last year when he did throw the football, there were some ugly throws at times. Not all the time, but especially on the more intermediate to deeper throws, Tom Brady wasn't always right on the money with those throws. And the deep ball is a big part of the Bruce Arians offensive philosophy. So let's see how he does with the deep ball, which kind of was mediocre for Brady last year, which is not all that shocking. We're talking about a guy now that's in his 40s. He's been a starting quarterback in the NFL for pretty much exactly 20 years. Eventually you're going to lose a little zip on your fastball, so to speak. And I think that's exactly what that's definitely something that concerns me here. Is Bruce Arians going to tweak the offense to kind of what it was like in New England to make Brady feel more comfortable? It goes against what he likes to do, but I guess if he wants to try to placate Tom Brady and make him feel more comfortable with his new team, you might see them run the football a lot more than they normally would in the past. Because you look at the Jameis Winston offenses the last couple of years, they didn't run the football anywhere close to as much as they threw it. So that's going to be very interesting. I don't know what to expect. Birdie with a good, nice little point in the chat saying that Bruce Arians has made a quote saying, I don't care as long as we score, in terms of long methodical drives, in terms of maybe running the football and incorporating the run game more. Yeah, that's definitely coach speak, and maybe he's truthful there, but I want to see it first. This is one of those games that I'm staying far away from it from a betting perspective. I can't wait to watch it, I really can. But I'm going to need to see a game for Tampa Bay before I can just buy into all the hype and all the thoughts that this team's just already a Super Bowl contender. I certainly agree the defense is really improved. That front is going to be really, really a beast to deal with. The front seven of the Bucs. They came on big time last season for this team. I think their secondary is still a little bit shaky, but they could get a pass rush on Drew Brees, and that could be an area where they have some success. Let's not forget, Drew Brees took a lot more sacks last year, and this New Orleans offensive line, I thought, didn't quite play as well as they did last year. You look at the Minnesota playoff loss for New Orleans last year, that offensive line got overwhelmed for much of that game by the Minnesota front seven and the pass rush. Tampa Bay could do the same. Tampa Bay could do the same here. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to see how that unfolds here. Look, if this number trickles down just another half point, if I can get -3, I might lock in a small bet on New Orleans because I don't love all of this hype. I don't love all of this public adulation right now with Tampa Bay when they haven't played a single game yet. And we don't know if this whole Brady experiment's going to work right away when he didn't get any game action, no preseason. So there's a lot of unknowns, a lot of variables in play here. If it gets to -3, I'll probably have something on New Orleans, very small. Other than that, I'm staying far away from this football game from a betting standpoint, but I am absolutely excited to watch it, see how it goes. We'll go through the last 3 games very quickly. Sunday Night Football and the 2 Monday night games. Dallas, LA Rams. We're going to have to skip college football this week. We'll get back to some CFB on the show next week. I promise we'll talk some college football next week. Dallas 3-point favorites here, 51.5 the total. This is the other over I like. The LA Rams, the last 3 or 4 seasons in week 1 openers under head coach Sean McVay, quarterback Jared Goff, same head coach, same head coach, same quarterback the last 3 seasons. The week 1 openers, the Rams have scored 30-plus points in all 3 week 1 season openers the last 3 seasons. Doesn't surprise me. This is a good offensive play caller, mind, ability to game plan and scheme an offense that we have with Sean McVay here with the LA Rams. He's had his offenses ready to produce, ready to succeed right away, and the evidence is clear. Proof is in the pudding. 3 straight week 1 openers for the LA Rams, 30-plus points scored in each week 1 game. Obviously, that's going to be tested here. No preseason, limited training camp, less practices. But the bottom line is the Rams have come out playing well offensively, and I think they will here too. You look at Dallas, DeMarcus Lawrence, could you wake up from your damn slumber already? I mean, you got your big contract last year. You're supposed to be this dominant force, blowing up the line of scrimmage, getting a pass rush, and he couldn't be found. You couldn't find him with a telescope on the football field much of last season. He's got to be a whole lot better. The secondary, to me, is still a big-time concern with this Dallas Cowboys team. They can get shredded, in my opinion, with their pass defense. That's not going to be an easy fix for new head coach Mike McCarthy. Overall, with that Dallas Cowboys defense, it's going to take them some time, in my opinion, for that defense to get better. It's also coordinator change on that side of the ball. That's an adjustment. Is there some new terminology, new systems in place? To me, this is a Dallas defense that's up against it here in week 1, flat out. With the defense disappointing last year, you're making some changes. Jared Goff, can be frustrating at times, but I think he's apparently the reports in LA Rams practices are that he looks good. He's been solid. And the biggest thing for the LA Rams is Cooper Kupp is there and he's healthy. Like this LA Rams offense, it is unbelievable the difference when Kupp is on the field and Kupp is injured, because Jared Goff's got this unbelievable telepathic type chemistry with Cooper Kupp. It is almost something you can't duplicate. And he's healthy, and you just know they're going to make big plays in the passing game like they always do, those 2 guys. Robert Woods has been pretty solid for the most part. Josh Reynolds came on as a third receiving option for this team. You got Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers leading it, running back. Tyler Higbee showed a lot down the stretch as a tight end. The LA Rams offensively should do damage here, but so should Dallas. The Dallas Cowboys offensively, first of all, you don't have Jason Garrett, Mr. Conservative. at the helm anymore. This is going to be an offense that I think they're going to unleash the shackles, uncuff the Dallas Cowboys offense here. Let Dak Prescott throw it. Let's get Zeke Elliott involved early and often. And this LA Rams defense, you talk about player loss from last season on the defensive side. It's Aaron Donald and a bunch of strangers for the LA Rams on defense coming into this season. They lost so much key production, key players, impact players at all three levels, D-line, linebacking core, and in the secondary. And they lose Wade Phillips as well, another coordinator change on the defensive side in this game for the LA Rams as well. So you've got defenses that are suspect. Dallas's, is going to take time to improve. The LA Rams lost so many key pieces and their DC from last year on that side of the football. And you've got two very, very capable and potentially explosive offenses. Like I said, the Rams have scored at least 30 points in every recent season opener. And I think Dallas is definitely going to be a team that can get high 20s and maybe even into the 30s in this game as well when you look at the talent. I mean, you look at the Cowboys. I mean, skill position-wise, and their offensive line is still very good in my mind. But Zeke Elliott at running back, Prescott quarterback, receiving core, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb is going to be one of those guys that I think has a big rookie season because he's got that speed, he's got that ability to get behind the defense and make big plays down the field, make people miss in the open field. Michael Gallup, Blake Jarwin is a tight end that's more than capable. This is a team with a lot of weapons on it, Dallas, and now against a defense that's been essentially gutted from last season. So I like the total a lot here. It's gone up. It's actually been a steady flow of over money. It opened 50, 50 and a half. It's up to 51 and a half. There was even some 52s out there with the total earlier this week, but I like it. I think this game goes over the total. We get a shootout. As far as the side is concerned, not a really strong opinion. I lean slightly to the Rams as a home dog. I'm not ready to lay points with Dallas on the road in week one, but I definitely feel stronger about the total. Monday Night Football, two games, doubleheader as always in week one, Monday Night Football. Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants. Pittsburgh 6-point favorites, 46.5 the total. I like this game under the total. Pittsburgh's done very well in the road favorite role in terms of trending to the under. I think that's the way it's going to be going into this game as well. I know they got Big Ben finally back at the quarterback spot, and it's going to improve their offense, is at least in time, because, let's be honest, Duck Hodges was not very good. I think Mason Rudolph disappointed me. I was expecting more out of Mason Rudolph last year at quarterback for the Steelers, and he just never really got on track at any point. But, Ben's back now. Juju Smith-Schuster kind of underwhelmed last year, but let's give him another year as the number one receiver. You're adjusting to life without Antonio Brown. You're now getting the focal amount of coverage defensively in the secondary from opposing teams. Let's now see what he does here in this particular environment now. Full season as a number one receiver. I just think it's going to take time for the Steelers offensively. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers defensively, though. The Pittsburgh Steelers for the last couple of seasons, early in the Big Ben career with the Steelers, early in his career, it was a very good offensive team, and at times the defense would be a little bit shaky for Pittsburgh. It's kind of the reverse now. Their offense is not quite as good as it's been in the past, but their defense is probably better for Mike Tomlin's Pittsburgh Steelers team than it's been in the past. I like what I see on that side of the ball. I still think there's potential for New York with Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, but it didn't go well down the stretch. Joe Judge comes in, a new head coach. Not a great situation. Very odd, kind of bizarre head coaching selection, if you ask me, for the New York Giants. They're going to rely, obviously, a lot on Saquon Barkley, as they should. We know he's a dynamic running back, but the passing game's still a question mark for me. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, questionable, by the way, for this game. We'll have to wait and see for the Giants. And their Giants defense, it's another defense that, look, was terrible last year. And is it going to be any better this year? I'm not so sure. I actually leave the door open for them being better because they can't be worse. Just for that reason. I'm not saying they're going to be leaps and bounds better defensively than they were last year, but I think it's going to take some time on that side of the ball. But I do think the offense is going to struggle. Pittsburgh's defense is that good. And on the flip side, with Ben Roethlisberger, first game in a long time, even against a Giants defense that, has some question marks, is it going to be a Pittsburgh offense that's ready to light it up in week one with Ben Roethlisberger playing his first actual game in a very, very long time? I'm not so sure. I just like this under the total. And Pittsburgh has been one of those teams that's been a little bit more methodical pace-wise in terms of their run-pass balance. Giants, same thing. They're not looking to speed things up either. I think the under definitely makes sense here in this game. I lean a little to Pittsburgh here, laying the 6, but I don't love it. But I don't want the Giants. I would lean to Pittsburgh. I just think the under is the better way to go. My buddy Alex B. Smith in the chat here, already some rumblings with the Giants coaching not getting through with the players during practice. Yeah, it's difficult, Alex, for everybody. When there's not as many practices, there's not as many sessions to, in training camp. You're doing so many things via Skype and Zoom and all these virtual conferences to get everybody on the same page. It's a crazy times, and it's difficult to pinpoint who's going to look better and who's going to be ill-prepared coming into week one. But Giants stand out, Alex, for sure, as a team I wouldn't want to trust to be ready in week one. Carolina, I mentioned them earlier, with all the new coaches and changes and coordinators and schemes and players. I think they're not really well equipped to succeed right away in week one either. So there's a couple of teams that definitely fall into that category. Mr. Rizzo, Big Ben to throw an interception. It's worth a shot. It's hard to expect Ben Roethlisberger, for as nice a career as he's had, to be amazing right away here in week one. So something to keep in mind there. We'll have to wait and see, because it's been a long time since he's played in an NFL regular season game. How's he going to fare with it? Last game, Tennessee-Denver, before we wrap up this show. Tennessee 2.5-point favorites, 41 the total in this game. Obviously, huge news for Denver. Von Miller injury, significant. Vic Fangio is basically pumping the brakes, saying that, it's not season ending like some people thought initially, but still, it's going to keep him out for a period of time. It's a big loss for the Denver Broncos for sure, defensively. Tennessee, on the other hand, you look at them. Ryan Tannehill, they kept him around. They've paid him now. Can he show that last year was not a one-hit wonder for him? Because we know that Tennessee got their season turned around when Marcus Mariota got benched and Ryan Tannehill took over at the quarterback spot. Derrick Henry, of course, an incredible year running the football. A.J. Brown had a breakout season as wide receiver for the Titans. Questionable, though, for week one on Monday night against Denver. Corey Davis stepped up. Adam Humphries, they also chipped in, were pretty solid in the passing game. Jonnu Smith at tight end. Tennessee's got the offensive pieces in place. As long as Ryan Tannehill can at least play with somewhat the same level of consistency he did for most of the regular season last year. As far as Denver's concerned, look, they're still going to be very good on defense, although they do get weakened, obviously, without Von Miller. There's no question. But I think what I'm looking at more than anything with Denver this season, and I said this way back when I was doing an NFL draft show months ago, and I mentioned this, I think, in a couple of NFL preview videos I was talking about regarding Denver. I think this is a Denver team that's going to be a sneaky over-the-total team from a game-to-game standpoint this season. Look, their defense is certainly still formidable. There's no question about that. But I look at this Denver team now. I was impressed with Drew Lock second half of the season. I thought he got much better, much more comfortable in this offense. Obviously, Melvin Gordon, they bring him in. I didn't love it. I thought he was horrible with the Chargers. But he can a new team, a new city, a change of scenery bring better results for him? We'll see. Wide receiving core is where it's at for Denver. Cortland Sutton, like him a lot. Jerry Judy, what a great draft pick that was from Alabama. I think he's going to make an immediate impact. I don't think he's a rookie receiver that's going to struggle and there'll be a transition period. I think he's got the potential, Jerry Judy, to be an immediate impact at wide receiver for Denver. Noah Fant, Nick Vannett in the tight end. They've actually got three potential tight ends. They might cycle through Fant, Vannett, and Jake Butt. There's some weapons now, and Denver has also upgraded the O-line, which at times was a little bit of a sore spot for them at times last year. I would lean to Denver from a side perspective, even with the Miller injury. I've cooled off on betting Denver because of that. And because they're 2.5-point home underdogs. I think it's still a little bit, having Tennessee laying 2.5 on the road. I'm not ready to take Tennessee. I would lean to Denver, but I am going to be on this over. It's a low number. We're not asking for a supreme shootout here. Total is 41. I think this Denver offense has a lot more weapons for Drew Lock around him, a better offensive line. And let's not forget about Tennessee last year. When Ryan Tannehill took over at the quarterback spot second half of the season, that is when Tennessee went on this torrid over-the-total streak the rest of the season. Pretty much nearly every game except one or two, regular season and playoffs combined, for the Tennessee Titans since Ryan Tannehill took over at quarterback last year went over the total. And it's because Tennessee was being lined with these low to mid-40s totals week in and week out that were just too low. With the offense improving under Tannehill, showing a lot more balance because they finally had some semblance of a passing game that they really didn't have under Marcus Mariota. It just made a huge difference to their totals, is that once Tannehill took over, Tennessee became an over machine. I think we get an over in this game here. It's 41. It's not asking a lot here to get this game over the total. You give me a 24-20 game, it goes over the total here in this one. That's all we're asking for. We get 21-21. Both teams get to 21 points, it goes over the total. So we're not asking for a massive, incredible high-scoring shootout here. We're just asking for Denver to show offensive improvement, which I think they will, and Tennessee to offensively, which they got better on that side of the ball when Tannehill took over last season. And the Von Miller absence will be felt. I know they've still got a pretty solid group defensively on that side of the football, certainly from a pass rush standpoint. You've still got capable enough pass rushers on this team. The secondary's solid, but it does take a hit, the Bronco defense, especially that front and that pressure they can get on Tannehill without Miller there. So I like over 41, Titans and Broncos in the nightcap, the second game of the Monday night doubleheader. Titans-Broncos over 41. I think that bet makes a ton of sense to me for the final game of Week 1 NFL action. All right, that'll wrap it up. I am not going to be doing sometimes I do this, but I'm not going to be doing a best bet at the end of every show here for this Ian Cameron football frenzy. I've given you my bets. I've given you my leans. It's just that I don't like, especially here in Week 1, when there still could be some injury information circulating between now and kickoff on Sunday. So no best bets weekly on the show, but hey, I ran down every game. I gave you all my leans as well as the games I pulled the trigger on from a betting standpoint. Again, just to recap, I will recap the games that I've bet so far. We're looking at, in order, I like Cleveland plus the points. I like Minnesota money line against Green Bay. I like Las Vegas -3 against Carolina. I like the over in Seattle, Atlanta. I got over 48.5. It's 49. I still endorse it. I like Arizona plus the points against San Francisco. It's +7 right now, and also over 48 in that Arizona-San Francisco game. I like Dallas and the LA Rams over 51.5. I like the under 46.5 Pittsburgh Steelers, New York Giants, and I like over 41 Tennessee, Denver in the second Monday Night Football game taking place to wrap up Week 1. And that will wrap up the first episode of Ian Cameron's Football Frenzy right here on the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel. Man, it was an adventure. We had some kinks. We had some glitches for the first show. I didn't expect them. I didn't want them. I didn't plan for them, but they happened. We got through it, and the rest of the show after the first 25, 30 minutes went smoothly. And hopefully next week we get through the entire show without any major technical glitches. But thank you to everybody for tuning in. Everybody in the chat, Birdie, Mr. Rizzo, Mark, Jansen, everybody that tuned in, and everybody, even if you're not in the chat and you're watching, thank you very much. We're going to be here each and every Thursday, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time throughout the football season. We didn't have time for college football on today's show. We'll try to get some college football on the show next week on our second edition of the Ian Cameron Football Frenzy. So make sure you tune in right here, Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel, each and every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern time for the Ian Cameron Football Frenzy. I'm Ian Cameron. Thank you very much for tuning in. Good luck with all of your bets here in NFL Week 1 and in college football as well. Have a great football weekend. Cash those tickets, and I'll see you again right here next Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, for our second edition of the Ian Cameron Football Frenzy right here on the Pub Sports Radio YouTube channel. Take care, everybody.